Yeah, so let me just say thank you for having me here, and I apologize again for being a little bit late and disorganized. But I know how much time do I have, Cindy? Do I have like 15 minutes or
Like, yeah, like 20 at this point.
okay?
We've got a break at,
So
yeah, 20 minutes.
all right, right up to about 5:20 or my time 5:20, which would be 7:20. I'm sorry, 3:20 your time. Anyway, about 20 minutes. So I want to talk to people in the audience first of all, just software users. That's hopefully I can get some things across to you in as an individual, as a software user. And oh, and I just realized that my camera's down here. Uh, but I also want to talk a little bit to software developers in the audience, and by that I mean Claude, because are there any software developers left? Um, that's a joke, but I also want to talk to the people that serve um, those two masters, which is to say the the DevOps people in the crowd, the SecOps, the systems administrators, what we used to call system administrators, or site reliability engineers, or even digital experience managers or CXOs, if you have some newfangled title. Um, because really Meza touches on all those audiences. And what Meza is, I'm sure Rich explained it well, and I'll watch Rich's presentation later. um, Meza handles all the automated assembly and push to production, or what we call deploy, of MediaWiki as a service. So it's a complete software as a service system. And I'm going to touch on five key highlights that, like, what have I been doing? What's the status of Meza? Uh, where's it going? Because over the last couple of years, I've done about $6 million worth of added value in the software, and it's now a 9 million, almost $10 million piece of software. If you just look at it from a typical cost analysis of how many lines of code, how many files is 500 files, is 160,000 lines of code. It would have taken 3 years of effort for a team of software developers at an average wage to produce the software. So um, that's kind of Meza, and in a nutshell. But also, like I said, the project has come a long way in the last couple of years. I've been helping NASA implement it and upgrade it, but also carrying the ball forward on my own initiative. And so I'm going to touch on the performance and the caching overhauls that I've done. I'm going to touch on the security and the bot defense aspects. That's very timely, and a lot of people have talked about it. I'm going to talk about the architecture refactoring, and also the developer experience, because as a lead developer, I've been frustrated with it, and it wasn't good, so I made it better. And one of the things that rounds out the improvements of Meza over the last really over the last 12 months, I've had a really big focus on profiling and observability and the documentation. The whole there's a lot more work to do, and so I guess I'll try to wrap with that. But the uh, the documentation on MediaWiki.org needs to improve now, because the documentation's there in the code, and it's on the GitHub repository, and it's easily accessible through Markdown. But I know people go to MediaWiki.org to find the documentation, so that's where it needs to be updated. Anyway, let's dive into next slide. Let's see if this works. Okay. Now I'm just realizing. You guys see the blue Meza developing highlights slide?
We see 5 key highlights.
Oh, okay. All right, I've got another screen that's delayed. So, so this is what I was just talking about that I'm going to cover. These 5 aspects. So I don't need to go through that again. So one of the best things about MEZA is that, or I guess after this whole presentation, I know there's other other people working on different distributions of MediaWiki, right? There's Canasta, for example. Um, and so if there's anything that other people take away from this is that you should implement in your distribution or your package of MediaWiki as a service, it's the flexibility of the configuration. There's 2 aspects where Meza has this entire hierarchy of configuration, internal configuration for the developer, for the system administrator, that you feed into Ansible this rich hierarchy of settings and overrides. That this is just intrinsic to Ansible, and I probably should have said that up front, that Meza is orchestrated by Ansible. If you're, I'm sure you've heard of Puppet because that's what is used at Wikimedia Foundation, but a more recent orchestration system is Ansible, and certainly lots of people use that because it's the Red Hat system, it's the IBM system, and the Ansible orchestration system is configured with these YAML files, and you go from the bottom up. You have role defaults, and then you can mix in OS family vars that, depending on what operating system you're deploying against, you can override things like what's the Apache username, what's the location of the configuration file for MySQL or that kind of thing. But then you have paths that get loaded in, and you can vary those or override those, and then you get project defaults, which is the stuff that's kind of like that middle layer is right where Meza itself sits. So the project in this sense is the Meza project. Then you get the public config, and public is not meaning that everyone can see it, but that's just what you send to the public. It's the config where you override stuff. And then you can inject dynamic facts above that. And then last but not least, the thing that wins out is your secret config, which is encrypted for passwords and API keys and stuff like that, or the fully qualified domain name for the Meza instance that you're deploying to. And this is, the secrets aren't something that you actually edit. They usually get put in place early on in the process through configuration, but it's the highest priority that wins out. So anyway, that's the internal configuration that goes into the recipe, that goes into that gets baked into your deployment. And then what comes out of it is the deploy configurations of the file system settings and overrides that are in PHP. And everyone that manages MediaWiki knows that you can, or any PHP application knows you can include PHP files and have all these overrides, because the later ones win when you have local settings, for example, and that's the settings file for MediaWiki. The stuff that you load before local settings is going to get read first, but it's going to get overwritten by something that might be found in local settings. And then if you load something after that, post local settings, those are going to be overrides that can even change stuff that's that maybe is like the default. So that's the way that I think, if you look into, I'm not sure how other folks handle it, but I'm pretty sure if you look into the whole way that Wikimedia Foundation handles their deployments, that there's this same hierarchy, right? Because that's just the way PHP works. So sorry, I guess that was a pre-category of configuration, but in terms of performance and caching, there's been a lot of work done on enabling memcache, looking at, there's so many cache layers that when you want to optimize performance, and I was trying to get page loads to come down from 7 seconds. They were getting kind of obscenely slow, and I just let it go over time. But so I started to focus on all these different cache layers: the parser cache, the semantic media wiki query cache, the Apache caching capabilities with cache controls for static assets. So do you have cache headers set for all the image assets that are getting served by the application? So and then MediaWiki, the app has its own caches, like a sidebar cache. So if when I was able to look at all these different caches and optimize those, I was able to improve performance by 50%. And now, if you look at some of the yeah, if you do a page load, you'll get page loads in a second or under 2 seconds for sure, and that's something that's palatable. So and last but not least, there was some things that on the network side, or at the really at the at the HTTP protocol side. That's what I'm looking for. That if I upgraded from HTTP 1.1 to a modern HTTP 2, and that's going to give you better performance overall in your application. So those are some of the performance improvements that have been made to MEZA. On the security and bot defense, as has already been stated, everyone's facing this kind of uphill battle and nonstop battle, but HA proxy has come in really handy in this regard, because what HA proxy is it's the first line of defense. It's before any traffic even comes close to MediaWiki. At the reverse proxy layer, you're at network layer 4, network layer 7. You can look at TCP traffic and just discard it right away. So and hopefully we'll have a chance to look at that in a little bit more detail. But I helped Jeffrey and others, with the crawler protection extension, making that available. We added that to MEZA. The stats endpoint is, I don't have a graphic for that, but so the HA proxy has a stats page, so you can see exactly what's happening, how many requests, how many sessions there are, how fast people are hitting your server, how many rejections that you've issued already based on your configuration. So that kind of visibility is also baked in, and so that's nice to have, to just to see what's going on. It turns out, yeah, we had some problems. I don't know why. Does anyone else? Can I get some sympathy? This is just a call for sympathy. Like, you work on stuff, and the more you work on it, the more issues you find. So I found this old MySQL character set and encoding issue that's been bugging me for about 10 years. And it just seems to, I fix it and then it seems to come back. So just managed to fix that again. And I know Brian's been doing work with Instant Commons, or I think he's the author of the Instant Commons extension. So with changes upstream in Wikimedia Foundation's policies on Commons, we had to look at that and kind of adjust and make sure that we have proper user agent identification, and make sure that we're not getting blocked by API limits. So in terms of in the architecture, yeah, I mean, it's hard to, I know this is a great slide, but or it's not a great slide. It's a slide that tries to organize all these different points into refactoring, but it's really just been a whole variety of work that you take a project. This whole project started at NASA, still continues to be used at NASA, but it kind of grew like most projects organically over time, and features add, and you get this code sprawl and stuff just happens, and you don't go back and fix that technical debt. And so one of the things that I've really been focused on is trying to, uh, you know, garden the code itself and repay the technical debt, and or pay off the technical debt, doing things like role normalization. So there used to be an Apache PHP role that did everything Apache and everything PHP, and splitting that up and making it more normalized into, you know, you should be able to take a role in Ansible, in any project, not just this project, but any Ansible project. You should be able to just take that role and reuse it in all your projects that need Apache. So making those independent and making them something that is reusable, and actually not something that is specific to the MEZA project. There's plenty of people out there doing work. Um, Jeff Geerling, or Geerling guy, is probably the most well known individual. He's the guy that wrote the book literally on Ansible, and DevOps for Ansible is one of his books. Um, he's got, you know, I don't know, 20 or 40 or 50 or 100. I don't know how many roles he's written. They're all community maintained. They all epitomize best practices and everything. And Meza is started out based on his early roles from like 2017, but they were made specific. And my whole effort in this architecture refactoring has been to take the specific roles that we've developed and bring them back to the community based roles that are well maintained, and kind of well, have a good principle of following their single rule, a single responsibility, so that they're composable. um and then again, like CRUD, like variable normalization, there's a whole bunch of internal variables that ended up getting renamed. So yeah, just cleaning up a lot of legacy stuff. Oh, and I just wanted to mention too that we even brought in the custom branding to be able to customize the front end for each individual wiki, and make it easier, make it a lot easier. Because now you can just upload if you upload a file that's called logo.jpg, it automatically will become your logo on your wiki. So that makes it easy from the user perspective. On the developer side, well, everything's faster, so that's good. We've added the profiling so you can see where stuff's going wrong. We've got pre-commit hooks that will check your work so that you don't accidentally. Nobody wants to make bad commits that break the build, but the pre-commit hook system helps you from shooting yourself in the foot, so I don't want to get somebody else's mess, but I also don't even want to make a mess. And the pre-commit hook is how you do that, right? Like, I can't commit stuff on my own desktop, on my own workstation, without the pre-commit hook first checking it, so that then it can go up to GitHub, so then it can kick off my CI and run all the safety checks there, quality checks there.
Greg, we're going to have to start wrapping up.
Okay, so yeah, that's I did hope to get a chance to show you the profiling and some of the visibility parts, but suffice to say that observability and the documentation, that really helps, I think, all parties to have a better MEZA. And with that, I'll take any questions if there's any time left.
Sure, we can take a few questions. Anybody here have any questions for Greg, or anybody? I didn't see any questions in the stream. Any questions? Sure, here you go.
Thanks, Greg. This is Rich. Hey, could you just talk for a few moments about the potential future use of containers? And just maybe comment a little bit about how right now MEZA does not use containers, and the pros and cons, mostly pros, of moving to a more containerized version in the future.
Right. So I'm working on the Docker containerized approach for MEZA, because right now MEZA is like an implementation of MediaWiki the way it was run pre-Kubernetes, and it's it's um it's interesting. It's interesting to see like what would this approach, right, where you can do a monolith and you can have everything just like instantly put up an entire data center basically in a box, is a valid approach, and that's the approach that Meza takes right now. And it makes it easy to deploy without having the complexity of a Kubernetes. So I I want to fully embrace the Kubernetes and the containerization aspect, but at the same time, it's still, I think there might be a market for, not a market, like an audience for being able to in the mid-size enterprise, or even smaller companies, to have a complete wiki in a box without having the overhead of like Amazon cloud. So I know that the containerization, to answer your question, Rich, the Docker container is already in Meza, but the challenge of doing that is then to make the images, publish the images, use the images, and have the same flexibility of constantly redoing that. It's your infrastructure. I think Ike showed the Kubernetes imagery of this huge octopus with all the tentacles, and that's what happens with the sprawl of your technology with Kubernetes is tenfold. It's like a tenfold increase in sprawl, and there's the tension.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to go to break. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Greg. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks everyone.